They called her Gun Girl like it was an insult. While other sailors climbed the ranks through politics and connections, Petty Officer Second Class Vanessa Livingston spent her days in the armory at Naval Station Norfolk, methodically cleaning weapons that others had deemed beneath their attention. For 18 months, she'd endured the whispered jokes, the casual dismissals, the assumption that weapon maintenance was punishment duty for sailors who couldn't handle real responsibility. But secrets have a way of revealing themselves at the most unexpected moments. And sometimes, the right person notices what others have chosen to overlook. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning mist hung thick over Chesapeake Bay as Vanessa Livingston arrived at the armory before dawn, her footsteps echoing across the empty pier. Naval Station Norfolk was already stirring to life. The distant hum of generators, the sharp calls of bosun's mates preparing for morning quarters, the rhythmic slap of waves against hull plates. But here, in the isolated building that housed the base's small arms inventory, silence reigned supreme. Vanessa preferred it this way. The solitude meant no sneering comments about her assignment, no casual remarks about how Gun Girl must have really screwed up to land weapon maintenance duty. The truth was far more complicated, but complexity didn't survive in military gossip. Simple narratives were easier to digest. Vanessa Livingston was a screw-up who'd been relegated to grunt work. She unlocked the armory door with practiced efficiency, her security clearance allowing access that few others possessed. The interior was organized with mathematical precision. Rows of weapon racks, ammunition storage, cleaning stations arranged according to regulations that most sailors had never read. Maya had memorized them all, not because she was required to, but because understanding systems came naturally to her. The morning's work order lay on her desk. Routine maintenance on 47M, 4 carbines returned from training exercises, plus a complete inspection of the base's collection of specialized weapons. It was work that typically took a 3-person team the better part of a week. Maya would finish it alone by Thursday. She pulled on latex gloves and selected the first weapon, an M4 that showed signs of heavy use. Sand in the barrel extension, carbon buildup on the bolt carrier group, magazine spring tension compromised by extended loading. The previous user had clearly never learned proper weapon care, treating the rifle like a tool rather than a precision instrument that could mean the difference between life and death in combat situations. Vanessa's hands moved with surgical precision as she field-stripped the weapon: stock, upper receiver, charging handle, bolt carrier group. Each component separated and laid out in perfect sequence. Her movements were economical, efficient, betraying years of practice that no one had bothered to question. Why would a petty officer second class demonstrate such expertise with weapons? The assumption was that anyone skilled enough for advanced marksmanship training would be assigned to more prestigious duties. The assumptions were wrong, but Vanessa had learned to live with misconceptions. Through the armory's small window, she could see other sailors heading to morning formation. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez would be leading the weapons division through their daily routine, equipment inspections, training schedules, administrative briefings that consumed hours while accomplishing little. Vanessa had been excluded from these formations 6 months ago, officially to focus on the critical mission of weapon maintenance. Unofficially, because her presence had become uncomfortable for supervisors who couldn't explain why someone with her qualifications was cleaning rifles instead of using them. The M4's bolt carrier group came apart in her hands like a mechanical puzzle. Carbon deposits, metal wear patterns, spring compression. She read the weapon's history through microscopic details that others would miss entirely. This particular rifle had seen action beyond training exercises. The wear patterns suggested extended automatic fire, the kind that occurred during actual combat operations rather than controlled range time. Vanessa photographed the wear patterns before beginning the cleaning process. 6 months of weapon maintenance had revealed disturbing trends. Rifles returning from training exercises that showed combat damage, ammunition expenditures that didn't match official reports, equipment modifications that weren't documented in any manual she could access. The inconsistencies painted a picture of operations that weren't appearing in official channels. She'd mentioned the discrepancies to Chief Rodriguez during her first month in the armory. His response had been swift and definitive. "Your job is cleaning weapons, not analyzing intelligence reports. Stick to your assigned duties and leave the thinking to people with appropriate clearances." The message was clear. Vanessa Livingston was weapon maintenance personnel, nothing more. Her observations weren't welcome, her expertise wasn't valued, and her questions weren't appreciated. She'd learned to document irregularities quietly, maintaining detailed records that no one requested but someone might eventually need. By 0800, she'd completed initial assessment on 12 weapons. Each rifle told its own story through wear patterns, ammunition residue, and modifications that weren't standard issue. The stories were consistent: active combat operations involving equipment that wasn't supposed to exist, and personnel who weren't supposed to be deployed. The armory door opened without warning, interrupting her concentration. Lieutenant Commander Erica Barnes entered with the casual authority of someone accustomed to immediate deference. Vanessa snapped to attention, recognizing the officer who'd signed the transfer orders that had banished her to weapon maintenance duty. "As you were, Petty Officer," Barnes said, her tone carrying the dismissive courtesy reserved for personnel considered irrelevant to important operations. "I need to inspect our specialized weapons inventory for an upcoming audit." Vanessa gestured toward the secured section where advanced weapons systems were stored. "All documentation is current, ma'am. Weekly maintenance logs, ammunition accountability, security inspections, everything's up to date." Barnes moved through the specialized section with perfunctory attention, checking serial numbers against a list she'd brought, rather than examining the actual condition of equipment. Her inspection was administrative theater, designed to satisfy bureaucratic requirements, rather than ensure operational readiness. "This Barrett M82, Barnes said, pausing at the .50 caliber anti-material rifle mounted in its designated rack. "When was it last cleaned?" Vanessa consulted her maintenance log. "Complete disassembly and cleaning Tuesday, ma'am. Function test completed Wednesday. All components verified operational." Barnes nodded absently, making notes on her clipboard. The Barrett was Naval Station Norfolk's most sophisticated infantry weapon, capable of engaging targets at ranges exceeding 2 kilometers. In the right hands, it could disable vehicles, destroy equipment, or eliminate high-value targets with surgical precision. Most sailors had never seen one fired, much less understood its capabilities. "Have you received proper training on this system?" Barnes asked, the question carrying subtle implication that Vanessa's current assignment precluded advanced weapon familiarity. "I've completed all required maintenance certifications, ma'am," Vanessa replied carefully. It was true, though incomplete. Her certifications went far beyond what was required for cleaning duties, but volunteering additional information had proven counterproductive in previous conversations. Barnes finished her inspection and prepared to leave, then paused at the door. "Petty Officer Livingston, I trust you understand the importance of discretion regarding the equipment you service here. Some weapon systems are classified beyond your current clearance level." "Understood, ma'am." "Good. Continue your excellent work maintaining our inventory. It's exactly the kind of behind-the-scenes service that keeps the Navy operational." The door closed, leaving Vanessa alone with the subtle insult that her work was behind the scenes rather than mission-critical. It was the same dismissive attitude she'd encountered for 18 months, acknowledgement of her competence paired with denial of her potential. She returned to the M4 cleaning station, her hands automatically resuming the precise movements of weapon maintenance while her mind processed the morning's interaction. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell's inspection had been cursory, focused on administrative compliance rather than operational readiness. It was the kind of oversight that satisfied bureaucratic requirements while missing actual problems. The Barrett caught her attention as she worked. Barnes's question about training had been loaded with assumptions: that Vanessa's current assignment indicated limited capability, that weapon maintenance personnel wouldn't possess advanced marksmanship skills, that someone cleaning rifles wasn't qualified to operate sophisticated systems. The assumptions were understandable, but wrong. Vanessa's assignment to weapon maintenance hadn't been punishment or career limitation. It had been calculated placement, designed to position her where she could monitor equipment, while remaining invisible to operations that required her expertise without acknowledging it officially. But secrets had momentum, and truth had a way of surfacing when least expected. Vanessa's presence in the armory wasn't accidental. Her skills weren't limited to cleaning weapons, and her qualifications extended far beyond what appeared in her official service record. The morning continued with routine precision, weapons disassembled, cleaned, inspected, and returned to operational status. Each rifle, pistol, and specialized system received the same meticulous attention, the same careful documentation, the same professional competence that had characterized Maya's work for 18 months. Through the armory window, she could see normal base operations continuing. Sailors heading to training exercises, officers conducting inspections, civilian contractors performing maintenance on equipment that kept Naval Station Norfolk operational. It was the visible Navy, the official organization that appeared in budget documents and organizational charts. Vanessa served a different Navy, one that operated in shadows and left no official records. Her weapon maintenance assignment was cover for a mission that couldn't be acknowledged publicly, couldn't appear in personnel files, and couldn't be discussed outside secured facilities. For 18 months, she'd played her role perfectly, enduring dismissal and casual contempt, while ensuring that specialized equipment remained operational for operations that officially didn't exist. But playing a role required constant vigilance, and vigilance was exhausting. Every casual insult, every dismissive comment, every assumption about her limited capabilities added weight to a burden she carried alone. The truth about Vanessa Livingston's qualifications was classified beyond the clearance level of people who made jokes about Gun Girl and her punishment assignment. The irony was suffocating. She maintained weapons for operations she'd helped plan, cleaned rifles used by personnel she'd trained, and ensured readiness for missions where her expertise would have been invaluable. But her value lay in remaining invisible, in maintaining the fiction that she was exactly what she appeared to be, a competent but unremarkable sailor assigned to grunt work. As the morning wore on, Maya completed maintenance on 23 weapons. Each one returned to operational status through skills that officially didn't exist. Her documentation was precise, her work was flawless, and her cover remained intact. But patience was becoming expensive, and maintaining fictional limitations was taking its toll. Soon, circumstances would require her to demonstrate capabilities that couldn't be explained by weapon maintenance training. Soon, someone would notice what others had chosen to overlook. Soon, the carefully constructed fiction would collide with operational necessity, and Vanessa Livingston would face a choice between maintaining her cover and revealing the truth about why someone with her qualifications was really cleaning guns at Naval Station Norfolk. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The mess hall at Naval Station Norfolk buzzed with the familiar rhythm of military gossip. Seaman First Class Marcus Thompson sat with his usual group, picking at his scrambled eggs while rehashing the morning's events. The conversation had already covered 3 topics: weekend liberty plans, complaints about the new physical fitness standards, and speculation about upcoming deployments. "You see Gun Girl this morning?" Thompson asked, using the nickname that had stuck to Vanessa Livingston like barnacles on a ship's hull. She was hauling some serious hardware out of the armory. That Barrett 50 cal looked like a toy in her hands. Petty Officer 3rd Class Amanda Rodriguez looked up from her coffee. "What's she need with a sniper rifle? I thought her job was just cleaning weapons, not playing with them." "Maybe someone finally realized she's not completely useless," suggested Seaman Williams, though his tone suggested he doubted his own words. "I heard Lieutenant Commander Barnes was doing an inspection yesterday, probably found something wrong with Livingston's work." The speculation continued, each sailor adding their own interpretation of events they hadn't witnessed and didn't understand. Naval Station Norfolk operated on rumors and assumptions, with truth becoming increasingly distorted as stories passed from person to person. Vanessa Livingston had become a reliable source of entertainment, her supposed failures providing comfort to sailors who needed someone to look down upon. What none of them knew was that Vanessa had been listening from the adjacent table, her back turned but her attention focused on every word. Military dining facilities were designed for efficiency, not privacy. Sound carried, conversations overlapped, and secrets became public knowledge faster than official announcements. She'd learned to navigate these social dynamics carefully, gathering intelligence while maintaining the fiction that she was exactly what she appeared to be, a competent but unremarkable sailor assigned to mundane duties. The mess hall conversations revealed more about base operations than official briefings ever did. "I still don't understand how she ended up in weapons maintenance," Rodriguez continued. "Her service record looked solid when she first arrived. Now she's basically a janitor with security clearance." Thompson leaned forward conspiratorially. My buddy in personnel told me there was some kind of incident during her previous assignment, something classified that went wrong. They can't court-martial her without revealing details, so they stuck her where she can't cause more damage. The story was close enough to truth to be believable, far enough from reality to be completely wrong. Vanessa almost smiled at the irony. Her previous assignment had indeed involved classified operations, but the incident in question had been a spectacular success that couldn't be publicly acknowledged. Her current position wasn't punishment, it was strategic placement. She finished her breakfast and stood to leave, noting how conversations paused as she passed nearby tables. The attention was subtle but constant, the kind of scrutiny that followed someone whose reputation had been defined by whispered rumors rather than observable facts. For 18 months, she'd endured this social isolation while maintaining operational effectiveness that her critics couldn't comprehend. The morning training schedule posted outside the mess hall caught her attention. Advanced marksmanship qualification was listed for 1,400 hours at Range Complex Charlie. The timing was interesting. Most training exercises were conducted earlier in the day to avoid afternoon heat. This schedule suggested either poor planning or deliberate timing to avoid unwanted observation. Vanessa memorized the details and continued toward the armory, where her official duties awaited. The morning's weapon maintenance would be routine. Cleaning rifles returned from the previous day's training, conducting inventory on specialized equipment, and ensuring that all systems remained operational for activities that didn't appear in official documentation. The armory felt different when she arrived, though she couldn't immediately identify why. Everything appeared normal. Weapons secured in designated racks, cleaning supplies organized according to regulation, documentation current and properly filed. But something had changed, some subtle alteration in the environment that triggered instincts honed through years of operations where noticing small details meant survival. She began her usual inspection routine, checking security systems and inventory logs before beginning maintenance work. The specialized weapons section drew her attention first. The Barrett M82 that Lieutenant Commander Barnes had inspected yesterday was missing from its designated mount. Vanessa consulted the equipment log, finding an entry she hadn't made. Barrett M82 number 4771 transferred to Range Complex Charlie for training exercise. Authorized by LCDRE Barnes, return scheduled 1,600 hours. The signature was legitimate, the authorization proper, but the timing suspicious. Why would the Barrett be needed for training when the advanced marksmanship qualification wasn't scheduled until afternoon? She photographed the log entry with her personal phone, a violation of security protocols that she justified through operational necessity. The patterns emerging at Naval Station Norfolk suggested activities that required monitoring, even if that monitoring had to be conducted outside official channels. The remaining weapons told their own stories through the evidence that previous users had left behind. Carbon residue patterns indicated rapid-fire sequences that exceeded normal training parameters. Barrel wear suggested use of armor-piercing ammunition that wasn't standard issue for training exercises. Equipment modifications showed customization that required advanced technical knowledge. Each piece of evidence by itself could be explained through normal military operations. Collectively, they painted a picture of activities that went beyond routine training and maintenance. Someone was conducting operations that required capabilities not typically found at a naval station whose primary mission was administrative support and logistics. Her secure phone buzzed with an encrypted message that appeared to be routine equipment notification but contained coded information that only she would recognize. Maintenance schedules adjusted. Observe and document irregularities. Report through established channels. The message appeared to come from base logistics, but the embedded code identified it as communication from handlers who officially didn't exist. Vanessa deleted the message after memorizing its contents. Her assignment at Naval Station Norfolk involved more than weapon maintenance, though she couldn't acknowledge that reality without compromising operational security. Someone wanted her observations about activities that weren't appearing in official records, and her position in the armory provided perfect cover for gathering that intelligence. The morning passed with routine efficiency, each weapon cleaned and returned to operational status with the same meticulous attention that had characterized her work for 18 months. But her mind was processing information that went far beyond maintenance requirements. Timing of equipment transfers, patterns in ammunition usage, personnel movements that didn't match official schedules. At 1,130 hours, Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez arrived for his weekly inspection, a ritual that served no operational purpose but satisfied administrative requirements. His approach to supervision was perfunctory, focused on checking boxes rather than ensuring actual readiness. Rodriguez had learned not to ask too many questions about Vanessa's work, partly because the answers might reveal his own limited understanding of advanced weapons systems. "Status report, Petty Officer," he said, consulting a checklist that hadn't been updated in 2 years. "All weapons cleaned and operational, Chief. Inventory current. Security protocols maintained. Barrett transferred to Range Complex Charlie per Lieutenant Commander Barnes's authorization." Rodriguez made notes without looking up from his clipboard. "Any maintenance issues requiring attention?" Vanessa hesitated. The truth was that she'd identified 17 minor issues that could affect operational performance, 3 ammunition compatibility problems that could cause misfires, and 1 safety concern that could result in catastrophic weapon failure. But reporting these findings would raise questions about how someone with her supposed qualifications could identify problems that trained armorers had missed. "Negative, Chief. All systems operating within normal parameters." The lie came easily, justified by operational requirements that Rodriguez wouldn't understand even if she could explain them. Her real mission involved observation and documentation, not preventing every possible equipment failure. Some problems were meant to be discovered by others, preferably at times and places that would provide useful intelligence. Rodriguez completed his inspection and prepared to leave, then paused at the door. "Livingston, you've been doing solid work here. Keep it up. Not everyone gets to contribute to important missions, but maintaining equipment is still valuable service." The condescension was unintentional but revealing. Rodriguez genuinely believed that weapon maintenance was Vanessa's appropriate level of contribution, that someone with her apparent limitations couldn't handle more demanding responsibilities. His perspective was shared by most personnel at Naval Station Norfolk, making her invisible in plain sight. After Rodriguez left, Vanessa returned to work with renewed focus. The afternoon would bring new challenges as the mysterious training exercise commenced at Range Complex Charlie. Her assignment required her to monitor activities while maintaining the fiction that she was exactly what she appeared to be, a competent but unremarkable sailor who cleaned weapons and asked no uncomfortable questions. The Barrett's absence from the armory created opportunities for observation that wouldn't normally exist. Equipment transfers required documentation, training exercises generated reports, and specialized weapons usage left traces that careful analysis could reveal. By evening, she would know more about the activities occurring in her area of responsibility. But knowledge came with risks. The more she learned about operations that weren't supposed to exist, the more dangerous her position became. Cover stories that worked for routine inspections might not survive serious scrutiny from people who understood what they were really looking at. Her secure phone remained silent, but Vanessa knew that handlers were monitoring her situation through methods she couldn't detect. Help would come if needed, but intervention would compromise her position and end her usefulness as an intelligence asset. Success required maintaining her cover while gathering information that could only be obtained from someone with access to equipment and facilities that others took for granted. The afternoon promised answers to questions that had been building for months. Soon, she would understand what activities were occurring at Naval Station Norfolk that required such careful concealment. Soon, the patterns would become clear, and her real mission would enter its next phase. But first, she had to survive the discovery process without revealing capabilities that couldn't be explained by weapon maintenance training. The challenge was becoming more complex with each passing day, and the margin for error was shrinking as her observations accumulated into actionable intelligence. Through the armory window, she could see personnel moving toward Range Complex Charlie with equipment that wasn't standard issue for routine training. The afternoon would reveal whether her suspicions were justified, whether Naval Station Norfolk was indeed hosting activities that went far beyond its official mission. The truth was out there, hidden in plain sight among routine operations and administrative theater. Vanessa Livingston would find it, document it, and report it through channels that officially didn't exist. But she would do it while maintaining the fiction that she was nothing more than Gun Girl, the sailor who cleaned weapons and caused no trouble for anyone important enough to matter. Range Complex Charlie sat at the eastern edge of Naval Station Norfolk, separated from the main base by a quarter-mile of marshland and administrative buildings. Unlike the newer training facilities that featured climate-controlled towers and electronic scoring systems, Charlie was old-school military: concrete barriers, manual target systems, and shooting positions that had been carved from Virginia clay decades ago. Vanessa approached the complex at 1,345 hours, timing her arrival to appear routine while positioning herself to observe the mysterious training exercise. Her official reason for being there was simple: the Barrett M82 would need immediate cleaning after use, and regulations required armory personnel to be available for post-exercise weapon maintenance. The cover story was thin but plausible. More importantly, it provided access to areas where she could observe activities that others might miss. Her 18 months of playing the role of competent but unremarkable gun girl had taught her to blend into background operations while maintaining situational awareness that went far beyond her apparent qualifications. The range was busier than normal afternoon training would justify. 2 unmarked civilian vehicles were parked beside the standard Navy transport trucks, their license plates obscured by mud that looked deliberately applied. Personnel moved with the purposeful efficiency of people conducting operations rather than training exercises, their body language suggesting familiarity with procedures that weren't found in standard military manuals. Vanessa positioned herself at the equipment shed adjacent to the firing line, where she could observe while appearing to organize cleaning supplies for post-exercise maintenance. The shed's location provided clear sightlines to the shooting positions while offering concealment that would allow her to document activities without being noticed by participants focused on their own tasks. At precisely 1,400 hours, the exercise commenced with efficiency that confirmed her suspicions about its true nature. This wasn't training. It was operational preparation or assessment. The personnel handling the Barrett moved with familiarity that suggested extensive experience with the weapon system, their setup procedures demonstrating knowledge that went beyond basic marksmanship training. The first shooter was a woman Vanessa didn't recognize from base personnel rosters. Civilian clothes, no visible military identification, body language that screamed professional operator. She approached the Barrett with casual competence, adjusting the scope and checking wind conditions with movements that suggested thousands of hours of experience with precision weapons. Lieutenant Commander Barnes observed from a position that offered clear view of both the shooter and the target area. Her presence confirmed official Navy involvement in whatever operation was being conducted, but her focus suggested evaluation rather than instruction. Someone was being tested, and the results mattered enough to risk conducting assessment exercises at a facility that was supposed to handle routine training only. The first shot echoed across the range, with the distinctive crack of the .50 caliber round breaking the sound barrier. Even at distance, Vanessa could see the target impact through binoculars she'd positioned as part of her equipment maintenance setup. Center mass. Perfect placement for a shot that covered nearly 800 meters across challenging wind conditions. The second shooter took position with equal competence, though his approach to the weapon suggested different training background. Military precision rather than civilian contractor methodology, movements that spoke of special operations training rather than law enforcement or intelligence background. His shot placement was equally impressive, confirming that skill level among participants was far above normal military standards. Vanessa documented everything through camera equipment disguised as routine maintenance tools. Photos of personnel, vehicle license plates, equipment configurations, and shooting results that would provide intelligence value for handlers who needed to understand what operations were being conducted at Naval Station Norfolk. Her position in the armory had provided access to this information, but gathering it required skills that went far beyond weapon cleaning. The third shooter surprised her. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez approached the Barrett with familiarity that contradicted his previous interactions with advanced weapons systems. During armory inspections, he demonstrated limited knowledge of anything beyond basic infantry weapons. Now he handled the precision rifle like someone with extensive sniper training, his movements efficient and confident. Rodriguez's performance was flawless. 3 shots, 3 perfect hits at maximum effective range under conditions that would challenge experienced marksmen. His competence revealed that her supervisor possessed qualifications that weren't reflected in his official service record, skills that suggested involvement in operations that required capabilities he'd never acknowledged. The revelation forced Vanessa to recalculate her understanding of personnel assignments at Naval Station Norfolk. If Rodriguez was participating in classified operations while maintaining cover as routine weapons division chief, how many other base personnel were operating under similar arrangements? Her assignment to weapon maintenance might not be as unique as she'd assumed. The fourth shooter was the biggest surprise. Seaman First Class Marcus Thompson, the same sailor who'd been making jokes about Gun Girl in the mess hall that morning, demonstrated marksmanship skills that placed him among the top 1% of military shooters. His casual dismissal of Vanessa's capabilities took on new meaning when viewed alongside his own hidden qualifications. Each participant represented a piece of a larger puzzle that Vanessa was beginning to understand. Naval Station Norfolk wasn't just hosting classified operations. It was staffed with personnel whose official assignments provided cover for capabilities that went far beyond their apparent duties. The base was functioning as a front for activities that required advanced skills while maintaining plausible deniability through administrative theater. Lieutenant Commander Barnes called a halt to the exercise after the fourth shooter completed his assessment. Personnel began breaking down equipment with the same efficiency they'd demonstrated during setup, their movements suggesting familiarity with procedures that emphasized speed and discretion. The civilian vehicles departed first, their occupants avoiding contact with base personnel who might remember faces or ask uncomfortable questions. Vanessa maintained her position at the equipment shed, ostensibly preparing cleaning supplies while actually documenting the breakdown process. The Barrett would be returned to the armory within the hour, and her examination of the weapon would reveal details about ammunition used, shooting conditions, and performance parameters that wouldn't appear in any official report. Rodriguez approached her position as other personnel departed, his demeanor carrying authority that he'd never displayed during routine interactions. Livingston, the Barrett will need complete cleaning and inspection before return to inventory. Pay special attention to barrel condition and scope alignment. Any irregularities should be reported directly to me, not through normal channels. The instruction confirmed that Rodriguez understood the weapon's performance requirements better than he'd ever acknowledged. His knowledge of post-exercise procedures suggested experience with operations where equipment condition could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. He was revealing capabilities that contradicted 18 months of careful characterization as competent but limited supervisor. Understood, Chief. How detailed should the inspection report be? Rodriguez studied her for a moment, his expression suggesting evaluation of someone whose true capabilities he was beginning to suspect. Detailed enough to ensure operational readiness. You'll know what to look for. The response was loaded with implication that Vanessa possessed knowledge beyond her official qualifications, that her assignment to weapon maintenance might not be the career limitation that others assumed. Rodriguez was testing her, probing to determine whether she understood the real requirements of her position. After personnel departed, Vanessa remained at Range Complex Charlie to conduct her own assessment of the exercise area. Evidence analysis was part of intelligence gathering that her handlers expected, and the shooting positions would contain information that official reports might overlook or deliberately omit. The target area revealed impressive accuracy from all four shooters, with shot groupings that confirmed professional-level marksmanship skills. Brass collection was incomplete, suggesting either hurried cleanup or deliberate evidence control. Wind condition data had been meticulously recorded, indicating serious attention to factors that affected long-range shooting accuracy. But the most interesting discovery was what she didn't find. No training documentation, no score sheets, no official records of an exercise that had involved advanced weapons systems and personnel with classified capabilities. The afternoon's activities had occurred without generating paperwork that could be audited or reviewed by oversight authorities. Vanessa understood the implications. Naval Station Norfolk was hosting operations that existed outside normal military channels, activities that required advanced capabilities while maintaining administrative invisibility. Her assignment to weapon maintenance provided cover for intelligence gathering about operations that couldn't be officially acknowledged. The return trip to the armory gave her time to process information that changed her understanding of the mission she'd been conducting for 18 months. She wasn't just monitoring equipment and documenting irregularities. She was gathering intelligence about a facility that served purposes far beyond its official designation. Her secure phone remained silent, but she knew that handlers were analyzing information she'd been providing through methods that left no electronic trail. the afternoon's observations would be incorporated into assessments that guided operations she'd never see or understand completely. The Barrett M82 was waiting in the armory when she returned, its condition telling the story of an afternoon's precision shooting that hadn't appeared in any official record. Examination of the weapon would provide the final pieces of intelligence about activities that required her continued presence at Naval Station Norfolk. But knowledge brought responsibility, and responsibility carried risks that were becoming more apparent with each discovery. Soon, she would know enough about classified operations to become a security concern rather than an intelligence asset. Soon, maintaining her cover would require capabilities that couldn't be explained by weapon maintenance training. Soon, Vanessa Livingston would face a choice between revealing her true qualifications and watching operations continue without proper oversight from authorities who officially didn't know they existed. The Barrett M82 lay disassembled on Vanessa's workbench like a mechanical autopsy, each component telling the story of an afternoon's precision shooting that officially never happened. The barrel showed minimal copper fouling despite firing multiple rounds, evidence of premium ammunition that cost more per shot than most sailors earned in a day. The scope rings bore microscopic adjustment marks indicating recent zeroing by someone who understood ballistic compensation at extreme ranges. Vanessa photographed each component before beginning the cleaning process, documenting evidence that would help her handlers understand the level of sophistication behind operations at Naval Station Norfolk. This wasn't weekend warrior training or routine military exercises. Someone was conducting assessment sessions for personnel whose capabilities far exceeded normal military standards. The armory's atmosphere felt different since her return from Range Complex Charlie. What had once seemed like isolated duty now felt like the center of operations that extended far beyond weapon maintenance. Every piece of equipment had potential intelligence value. Every maintenance record might reveal patterns that exposed activities requiring her continued observation. Her secure phone vibrated with an encrypted message disguised as routine supply notification. Pattern analysis confirms operational assessment. Maintain current protocols. Escalation probable within 72 hours. The warning was clear. Her intelligence gathering had provided enough information to suggest that something significant was approaching, something that would test her ability to maintain cover while gathering critical intelligence. She deleted the message and returned to the Barrett's cleaning, her hands moving with practiced efficiency, while her mind processed implications of the warning. Escalation could mean several things: increased operational tempo, security concerns about her observations, or mission requirements that would force her to reveal capabilities she'd kept hidden for 18 months. The armory door opened without preliminary knock, a breach of protocol that immediately triggered her threat assessment instincts. Lieutenant Commander Barnes entered with purposeful stride, her expression carrying authority that suggested this wasn't routine inspection or administrative visit. Behind her followed a man Vanessa didn't recognize. Civilian clothes, military bearing, eyes that constantly scanned for threats and opportunities. Petty Officer Livingston, Barnes said, her tone formal enough to signal that this conversation mattered beyond routine supervision. This is Mr. Garrett from Naval Intelligence. He needs to review our weapons inventory and maintenance procedures. Garrett extended his hand with professional courtesy that couldn't disguise his evaluation of everything from her handshake strength to her eye contact patterns. Intelligence operatives were trained to assess people within seconds, and Vanessa could feel his analysis as clearly as if he'd announced his conclusions aloud. "Impressive work with the Barrett," Garrett said, gesturing toward the disassembled weapon. "Your cleaning technique shows familiarity with precision systems that goes beyond standard armory training. Where did you develop those skills?" The question was loaded with implication and danger. Garrett had obviously observed her work methods, possibly through surveillance she hadn't detected, and his inquiry suggested knowledge about her background that shouldn't exist in official channels. Someone had been investigating Vanessa Livingston, and the results had generated enough concern to warrant intelligence involvement. "Advanced maintenance certification during previous assignments, sir," she replied carefully. "Specialized weapons require specialized care." It was true, but incomplete, the kind of response that satisfied surface inquiry while avoiding details that might compromise operational security. Garrett's expression suggested he understood the limitations of her answer and wasn't satisfied with information that raised more questions than it resolved. Barnes moved through the armory with familiarity that surprised Vanessa. During previous inspections, the lieutenant commander had demonstrated perfunctory knowledge of equipment and procedures. Now she navigated the specialized weapons section with confidence that suggested extensive experience with systems she'd never acknowledged understanding. "The irregularities you've been documenting," Barnes said, consulting a tablet that contained information Vanessa had never provided through official channels. "Ammunition discrepancies, unusual wear patterns, equipment modifications that aren't reflected in maintenance logs. Your observations have been quite thorough." The statement confirmed Vanessa's worst fears. Someone had been monitoring her intelligence gathering, possibly through surveillance methods she hadn't detected or through analysis of patterns in her documented observations. Her cover as routine armory personnel was compromised, though the extent of that compromise remained unclear. Garrett examined the Barrett's components with expertise that confirmed his familiarity with precision weapons systems. His handling of the scope and trigger mechanism demonstrated knowledge that went beyond administrative oversight into operational experience with long-range engagement systems. "This weapon was used in assessment exercises this afternoon," quote, he said, the statement carrying no inquiry because he already knew the answer. "Personnel evaluation for capabilities that require special clearance. Your maintenance of this system directly supports operations that can't be officially acknowledged." Vanessa understood that she was being read into information that changed her status from observer to participant. Garrett was revealing details about activities she'd been documenting, confirming her suspicions while simultaneously testing her reaction to classified information. "The ammunition residue patterns suggest match-grade rounds," she observed, deciding that demonstrating knowledge was less risky than pretending ignorance that Garrett had already seen through. "Probably 750-grain AMAX or similar precision projectiles. The barrel fouling is minimal despite multiple engagements, indicating premium propellant and possibly temperature-controlled storage." Both Barnes and Garrett exchanged glances that confirmed her technical analysis had exceeded their expectations. Vanessa's knowledge of ammunition characteristics and ballistic performance wasn't something that routine armory training would provide, and her casual demonstration of expertise had revealed capabilities that contradicted her official assignment. "Interesting assessment," Garrett said, his tone suggesting that her observations had confirmed suspicions rather than providing new information. "Your background includes advanced marksmanship training that isn't reflected in your current service record. Care to explain that discrepancy?" The direct challenge forced Vanessa to choose between maintaining her cover and acknowledging capabilities that might compromise operational security. Garrett's question suggested that intelligence already possessed information about her background, making denial potentially more damaging than carefully limited admission. "Previous assignment involved specialized training that required classification above my current clearance level," she replied, using military bureaucracy to avoid specifics, while acknowledging that her qualifications extended beyond current duties. "Some training can't be discussed outside appropriate channels." Barnes consulted her tablet again, scrolling through information that obviously contained details about Vanessa's actual service history rather than the sanitized version that appeared in official records. The lieutenant commander's access to classified personnel files confirmed her involvement in operations that went far beyond routine base administration. "Your previous assignment was with Maritime Security Response Team," Barnes said, reading from classified files that should have been inaccessible to base-level personnel. "Advanced marksmanship instructor, specialized in long-range maritime interdiction. Your current assignment to weapon maintenance was strategic placement, not career limitation." The revelation shattered 18 months of carefully maintained cover. Barnes possessed information that could only have come from classification levels that required special access, meaning that Vanessa's true background was known to people who had been allowing her to operate under false pretenses for reasons that remained unclear. Garrett moved closer to the workbench where the Barrett components lay disassembled, his examination of the weapon taking on new significance now that cards were being revealed on both sides of the conversation. "The assessment exercises you observed this afternoon were part of team selection for operations requiring capabilities that normal military training doesn't provide," he explained, his words confirming that her intelligence gathering had been noticed and analyzed. "Personnel like Chief Rodriguez, Seaman Thompson, and several others whose official assignments provide cover for qualifications they can't officially acknowledge." Vanessa realized that Naval Station Norfolk was functioning as a front for activities that required advanced personnel while maintaining administrative invisibility. Her assignment to weapon maintenance had positioned her to observe these operations while her handlers gathered intelligence about capabilities and activities that existed outside normal military channels. The question now, Barnes continued, is whether your current assignment serves the Navy's interests, or whether your actual capabilities could be better utilized in operational capacity. The statement was an offer disguised as evaluation, an opportunity to transition from covert intelligence gathering to active participation in whatever operations Naval Station Norfolk was really supporting. But accepting would mean abandoning the mission her handlers had assigned, potentially compromising intelligence gathering that served purposes beyond immediate operational requirements. Vanessa's secure phone remained silent, but she knew that handlers were monitoring this conversation through methods she couldn't detect. Her response would determine whether she continued gathering intelligence about Naval Station Norfolk's hidden operations or became part of those operations herself. The choice carried implications that extended far beyond personal career considerations. Her 18 months of observation had revealed that the base was hosting activities that required oversight from authorities who officially didn't know they existed. Abandoning her intelligence role might eliminate the only monitoring that ensured these operations remained within acceptable parameters. But refusing to acknowledge her capabilities might compromise her position entirely, ending her usefulness as either intelligence asset or operational personnel. Garrett and Barnes had revealed enough about their knowledge to make her previous cover story unsustainable. The Barrett M82 lay between them on the workbench, its disassembled components representing the moment when Vanessa Livingston would have to choose between continuing her masquerade as gun girl or revealing the capabilities that had made her assignment to Naval Station Norfolk strategically valuable in ways that none of the participants fully understood. The silence in the armory stretched like a taut wire, each second adding pressure to a situation that had moved far beyond routine inspection. Garrett's eyes never left Vanessa's face, reading micro-expressions and behavioral tells that intelligence operatives were trained to interpret. Barnes consulted her tablet with the focused attention of someone accessing information that could reshape everything they thought they knew about their base's personnel. Vanessa's mind raced through options that all carried unacceptable risks. Acknowledging her true capabilities would end her intelligence mission but might provide access to operations her handlers needed to monitor. Maintaining her cover story would preserve her assignment but had become impossible given what Garrett and Barnes already knew about her background. "There's something else," Barnes said, breaking the silence with words that suggested the conversation was about to take another unexpected turn. "Admiral Richardson is conducting an unscheduled inspection of our facility tomorrow morning. He's specifically requested to review our specialized weapons capabilities and the personnel responsible for maintaining them." The announcement hit like a physical blow. Admiral Jonathan Richardson commanded the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, overseeing operations so classified that their existence was rarely acknowledged, even in secure briefings. His presence at Naval Station Norfolk would mean scrutiny at levels that could expose everything: the base's hidden operations, her intelligence-gathering mission, and the carefully constructed fiction that had allowed both to continue for 18 months. Garrett moved to the armory's secured communications terminal, entering access codes that confirmed his clearance exceeded anything that routine intelligence oversight would require. His familiarity with the system suggested he'd used this equipment before, that his visit wasn't the random inspection it had initially appeared to be. "Admiral Richardson isn't coming for routine evaluation," he explained while accessing files that made the terminal's screen flicker with classification warnings. "Naval intelligence has been tracking irregularities in equipment requisitions, personnel assignments, and operational reports from this facility. Tomorrow's inspection is investigation disguised as administrative review." Vanessa understood the implications immediately. Her intelligence gathering had been part of a larger investigation into activities at Naval Station Norfolk. But now that investigation was moving from covert observation to official scrutiny. Admiral Richardson's inspection would expose operations that existed because they operated outside normal oversight channels. Barnes set down her tablet and faced Vanessa directly, her expression carrying weight that suggested the next words would define everything that followed. "We need to know where your loyalties lie, Petty Officer Livingston. Your observations over the past 18 months have been thorough enough to compromise operations that serve national security interests. The question is whether you understand those interests well enough to support them." The challenge was carefully constructed, offering Vanessa an opportunity to declare allegiance to operations she'd been monitoring, while simultaneously testing her willingness to abandon whatever mission had brought her to Naval Station Norfolk. Barnes was recruiting her while threatening her, providing options that all served the base's hidden agenda. "The activities you've been documenting," Garrett added, pulling up files on the communications terminal that showed detailed analysis of her intelligence reports, "support counterterrorism operations that can't be officially acknowledged. Personnel assignments that appear irregular actually provide cover for capabilities that normal military channels can't supply." The revelation reframed everything Vanessa had observed over 18 months. The mysterious training exercises, equipment discrepancies, and personnel with hidden qualifications weren't evidence of unauthorized operations. They were components of authorized operations that required unofficial implementation to maintain operational security. Her secure phone buzzed with an encrypted message that appeared routine but contained emergency protocols. "Abort current mission. Extract immediately. Compromise assessment indicates terminal exposure risk." Her handlers had been monitoring the situation and reached the conclusion that her position was no longer sustainable. But extraction would mean abandoning intelligence gathering at a critical moment when Admiral Richardson's inspection could expose operations that her handlers needed to understand. The investigation that had brought naval intelligence to her doorstep was larger than her individual mission, and walking away might eliminate the only oversight that ensured these operations remained within acceptable parameters. "Admiral Richardson's inspection will focus on weapons maintenance and personnel qualifications," Barnes continued, apparently unaware of the crisis communication Vanessa had just received. "Your expertise with specialized systems makes you a natural focal point for his evaluation. The question is whether you can demonstrate capabilities that justify the access you've been given to sensitive equipment." Garrett turned from the communications terminal with expression that suggested he'd accessed information that changed the dynamic of their conversation. "Your actual service record makes interesting reading, Petty Officer. Maritime Security Response Team, Advanced Marksmanship Instructor, Specialized Training in Precision Engagement Systems. Your assignment here wasn't career limitation, it was strategic placement." The admission confirmed what Vanessa had suspected. Her handlers had coordinated with naval intelligence to position her where she could monitor activities while maintaining plausible cover. But that coordination had apparently involved deception on multiple levels, with each side believing they were manipulating the other while serving their own agenda. "The Barrett you've been maintaining," Barnes said, gesturing toward the disassembled weapon that lay between them like evidence in a trial, "will be the centerpiece of tomorrow's demonstration. Admiral Richardson expects to see capabilities that justify the resources we've been allocated for this facility. Your maintenance work has kept that weapon operational for assessments that prove our personnel can handle missions requiring precision engagement." Vanessa realized she was being maneuvered into a demonstration that would expose her true capabilities, while serving the agenda of operations she'd been investigating. Tomorrow's inspection would force her to choose between maintaining her cover and proving that Naval Station Norfolk possessed personnel qualified for missions that required exceptional marksmanship skills. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" she said, deciding that direct questions were less risky than continued pretense when both sides clearly understood more than they were acknowledging. Garrett closed the classified files and faced her with expression that carried both threat and opportunity. "Tomorrow morning, Admiral Richardson will observe a demonstration of our precision engagement capabilities. You'll be operating the Barrett M82 in a live-fire exercise that proves our personnel can achieve results that justify continued funding for operations that don't officially exist." The request was elegant in its complexity. Vanessa would be forced to demonstrate marksmanship skills that contradicted her official assignment while participating in operations she'd been investigating. Success would prove that Naval Station Norfolk possessed capabilities that justified its hidden mission, but it would also end her intelligence-gathering role by revealing qualifications that couldn't be explained by weapon maintenance training. "And if I refuse?" she asked, though she already understood the implications of that choice. Barnes consulted her tablet again, accessing information that obviously detailed consequences Vanessa wouldn't want to face. "Your security clearance has been flagged for review based on discrepancies between your official assignment and observed capabilities. Refusing to participate in tomorrow's demonstration would confirm suspicions that you're not what you appear to be." The threat was clear: demonstrate her capabilities or face investigation that would expose her intelligence mission and compromise operations that extended far beyond Naval Station Norfolk. Her handlers, Emergency extraction order was becoming irrelevant as circumstances eliminated the option of walking away without consequences. Vanessa studied the Barrett's components on her workbench, understanding that the weapon represented more than precision engineering. It was the instrument that would force her to reveal capabilities she'd hidden for 18 months. Tomorrow's demonstration would end her career as gun girl and begin something else entirely. "What range and conditions?" she asked, accepting that participation was inevitable, while gathering information that might help her minimize exposure of capabilities that went beyond what the demonstration required. Garrett smiled with satisfaction that suggested her cooperation had always been the expected outcome. 1,000 meters. Variable wind conditions. Multiple targets representing high-value scenarios. Admiral Richardson will be evaluating whether our facility can support operations requiring precision engagement in contested environments. The specifications described a shooting challenge that would test skills few military personnel possessed. Success would prove that Naval Station Norfolk hosted capabilities that justified its hidden operations, but it would also demonstrate that Vanessa Livingston was far more than the competent but unremarkable sailor she'd pretended to be for 18 months. Her secure phone remained silent, her handlers apparently recognizing that extraction was no longer possible and that her mission had evolved into something that required adaptation rather than abandonment. Tomorrow's demonstration would be the culmination of everything she'd worked toward since arriving at Naval Station Norfolk, but it would also be the beginning of challenges that would test capabilities she'd never fully revealed. The Barrett M82 awaited reassembly, its components representing the instrument that would end one phase of her mission and begin another. Tomorrow, Admiral Richardson would witness a demonstration that proved Naval Station Norfolk possessed personnel qualified for operations that existed in shadows. But he would also witness the moment when Vanessa Livingston stopped being gun girl and became something that neither her handlers nor her current supervisors had fully anticipated. A precision marksman whose capabilities would reshape everyone's understanding of what was really happening at a base that officially existed only to process administrative paperwork and conduct routine training. Dawn broke over Naval Station Norfolk with crystalline clarity that promised perfect visibility for long-range shooting. Vanessa stood at the armory window, watching Admiral Richardson's convoy arrive with the punctuality that flag officers demanded and rarely received. 3 black SUVs, escort vehicles, and a communications truck that bristled with antennas designed for secure transmissions that wouldn't appear in any signal intercept database. She'd spent the night reassembling the Barrett M82 with precision that went beyond routine maintenance. Every component had been cleaned, calibrated, and tested to ensure flawless performance during the demonstration that would end 18 months of careful deception. The weapon now rested in its transport case, ready for the performance that would reveal capabilities she'd hidden since arriving at this seemingly routine naval facility. Her secure phone had remained silent since yesterday's emergency extraction order, suggesting that her handlers understood the situation had moved beyond their ability to control or influence. Today's demonstration would proceed without guidance from the people who'd originally assigned her to monitor activities at Naval Station Norfolk, leaving her to navigate consequences that none of them had fully anticipated. At 0800 hours, Admiral Richardson entered the armory with the commanding presence that came from 30 years of military service at classification levels that most personnel would never achieve. He moved with economy of motion that suggested someone accustomed to making decisions that affected operations spanning continents and involving personnel whose existence couldn't be officially acknowledged. Behind him followed a small entourage of officers whose insignia indicated specialties that aligned with activities Vanessa had been documenting: intelligence, special operations, and maritime security. Their presence confirmed that today's inspection wasn't routine evaluation, but assessment of capabilities that served purposes extending far beyond Naval Station Norfolk's official mission. "Petty Officer Livingston," Admiral Richardson said, his voice carrying authority that made formal introductions unnecessary. "I understand you've been maintaining our specialized weapons inventory with exceptional attention to detail. Your work has drawn favorable attention from people whose opinions matter in circles you might not expect." The statement was loaded with implications that Vanessa understood immediately. Someone with access to her intelligence reports had briefed Admiral Richardson about her observations, possibly revealing information that was supposed to remain classified within channels that officially didn't exist. Her 18 months of careful documentation had reached levels of the military hierarchy that operated in shadows deeper than her own assignment. Lieutenant Commander Barnes gestured toward the Barrett's transport case with pride that suggested personal investment in the demonstration's success. Sir, Petty Officer Livingston has maintained this weapon system to standards that exceed manufacturer specifications. Her technical knowledge and attention to detail have kept our precision engagement capabilities at full operational readiness. Admiral Richardson examined the case's contents with expertise that confirmed his familiarity with weapons systems used in operations that never appeared in congressional briefings or media coverage. His handling of the Barrett's components demonstrated knowledge that went beyond administrative oversight into operational experience with precision engagement in contested environments. Impressive maintenance work, he observed, noting details that most flag officers wouldn't recognize or appreciate. This level of care suggests familiarity with systems that require exceptional reliability under conditions where mechanical failure isn't acceptable. Where did you develop these skills, Petty Officer? The question was direct enough to require honest response while carefully avoiding specifics that might compromise operational security. Vanessa had rehearsed this moment through countless scenarios, but reality carried weight that preparation couldn't fully capture. Maritime Security Response Team, sir. Advanced marksmanship instructor specializing in precision engagement systems. Current assignment allows me to apply those skills in support of operations that benefit from enhanced weapons maintenance. Admiral Richardson exchanged glances with his entourage, their expressions suggesting that her background had been thoroughly investigated before today's inspection. Her admission confirmed information they already possessed while revealing capabilities that had remained hidden from routine base personnel for 18 months. The Maritime Security Response Team produces marksmen capable of engaging targets at extreme ranges under challenging conditions, one of Admiral Richardson's officers observed. Your current assignment to weapons maintenance seems inconsistent with qualifications that typically lead to operational positions requiring advanced marksmanship skills. Vanessa understood that she was being evaluated for purposes that extended beyond today's demonstration. Admiral Richardson's inspection was serving multiple agendas: assessing Naval Station Norfolk's capabilities, evaluating her qualifications for assignments she couldn't yet understand, and determining whether operations she'd been monitoring served national security interests effectively enough to justify continued support. Sometimes exceptional capabilities are most valuable when they're positioned where others don't expect to find them, Admiral Richardson said, his words carrying meaning that suggested understanding of her intelligence-gathering mission. Today's demonstration will evaluate whether this facility possesses personnel qualified for missions requiring precision engagement capabilities. The convoy moved toward Range Complex Charlie with efficiency that confirmed extensive advance planning. Admiral Richardson's staff had coordinated today's exercise with attention to details that ensured optimal conditions for evaluation of capabilities that couldn't be tested through routine training exercises or administrative inspections. Vanessa rode in the lead vehicle, the Barrett's transport case secured beside her, while conversation flowed around topics that revealed the scope of operations under evaluation. References to maritime interdiction, counter-terrorism support, and precision engagement in urban environments painted a picture of activities that went far beyond the administrative and logistical mission that Naval Station Norfolk officially supported. Haywall, Range Complex Charlie had been transformed overnight into a precision shooting facility that resembled operational environments more than training ranges. Multiple target areas were positioned at distances that challenged the Barrett's maximum effective range, with conditions that simulated real-world scenarios where precision engagement might be required to neutralize high-value targets. 1,000 meters, Admiral Richardson announced as personnel established the firing position. Variable wind conditions, multiple target scenarios, time constraints that simulate operational requirements. This evaluation will determine whether your capabilities justify the resources allocated to this facility. Vanessa approached the firing position with calm professionalism that masked the significance of what was about to occur. 18 months of maintaining cover as competent but unremarkable gun girl was ending, replaced by demonstration of capabilities that would reshape everyone's understanding of her qualifications and the operations she'd been monitoring. The Barrett M82 felt familiar in her hands, its weight and balance as comfortable as instruments she'd mastered through thousands of hours of training and operational experience. Setup procedures flowed automatically: bipod deployment, scope adjustment, range estimation, wind compensation calculations that accounted for variables most marksmen would never consider. Admiral Richardson observed through military-grade optics that would capture every detail of her performance, his evaluation determining not just her individual capabilities, but the viability of operations that depended on personnel with qualifications that couldn't be officially acknowledged or publicly discussed. The first target appeared at maximum effective range, a silhouette representing high-value personnel requiring neutralization under conditions where collateral damage wasn't acceptable. Wind speed varied across the engagement envelope, requiring compensation that challenged even experienced marksmen's ability to predict ballistic trajectory accurately. Vanessa controlled her breathing, aligned the scope's reticle with precision that incorporated variables most shooters would estimate rather than calculate, and squeezed the trigger with technique that reflected years of training in conditions where missing wasn't acceptable and second chances didn't exist. The .50 caliber round covered 1,000 meters in approximately 1.2 seconds, its trajectory affected by wind conditions, atmospheric pressure, and gravitational influences that she'd calculated automatically through experience that went far beyond routine military training. Impact occurred exactly where her calculations had predicted. Center mass on a target that represented successful neutralization of threats requiring precision engagement capabilities. The silence that followed was broken by Admiral Richardson's assessment: outstanding shot, precision engagement at maximum effective range under challenging conditions. Time to target engagement was within operational parameters for scenarios requiring immediate neutralization. But Vanessa was already preparing for the second target, her movements demonstrating efficiency that came from training where speed and accuracy were equally critical for mission success. The Barrett's bolts cycled smoothly, the next round chambered with mechanical precision that reflected exceptional maintenance and operational expertise. 8 seconds. That's how long it took her to reassemble the Barrett's bolt carrier group, when Admiral Richardson requested demonstration of her maintenance capabilities between shooting sequences. 8 seconds to completely disassemble and reassemble the weapon's most complex mechanism, while maintaining conversation about ballistic performance and environmental compensation factors. The demonstration was over, but its implications were just beginning. Admiral Richardson had witnessed capabilities that confirmed Naval Station Norfolk possessed personnel qualified for operations requiring precision engagement under conditions that challenged the most advanced military training. Vanessa Livingston was no longer gun girl. She was a precision marksman whose qualifications would reshape operational possibilities at a facility that officially existed only to process paperwork and conduct routine training. But she was also an intelligence asset, whose mission had evolved beyond original parameters, into something that would require capabilities none of her handlers had fully anticipated. The secure conference room in Naval Station Norfolk's administrative building hummed with the subtle electronics that ensured conversations couldn't be intercepted by surveillance methods known to foreign intelligence services. Admiral Richardson sat at the head of a table that had hosted briefings for operations spanning 3 decades of classified military activities, his expression reflecting satisfaction with a demonstration that had exceeded every expectation. Vanessa occupied a chair that felt more like a defendant's dock than a briefing position, understanding that the next hour would determine whether her intelligence mission evolved into something entirely different or ended in ways that her handlers had never anticipated. The 8-second Barrett reassembly had shattered 18 months of careful deception, revealing capabilities that raised questions about everything from her assignment rationale to the scope of operations she'd been monitoring. Exceptional performance, Petty Officer Livingston, Admiral Richardson began, consulting files that contained information she'd never seen reflected in official personnel records. Your marksmanship capabilities place you among the top 1% of military precision shooters. More importantly, your maintenance skills demonstrate technical knowledge that supports operations requiring absolute weapon reliability under extreme conditions. Lieutenant Commander Barnes sat across from Vanessa with expression that mixed vindication and concern, her previous interactions taking on new meaning now that official acknowledgement had replaced the careful fiction they'd all maintained. Mr. Garrett occupied a position that allowed observation of everyone's reactions while maintaining access to communications equipment that linked this conference to authorities operating at classification levels that officially didn't exist. The question before us, Admiral Richardson continued, involves determining how your demonstrated capabilities can best serve national security interests. Your current assignment has provided valuable intelligence about activities at this facility, But today's demonstration suggests that operational deployment might serve broader strategic objectives. Vanessa understood that she was being recruited for missions that would end her intelligence gathering role while potentially exposing her to operational risks that her handlers couldn't monitor or influence. The choice was being presented as opportunity, but the underlying message was clear: cooperation with operations that officially didn't exist, or consequences that would eliminate her usefulness in any capacity. "Sir, my current assignment serves specific objectives that might be compromised by operational deployment," she replied carefully, using military bureaucracy to avoid direct refusal, while signaling that her mission involved considerations beyond immediate facility operations. Barrett activated a secure terminal that displayed information requiring clearances she officially didn't possess, his screen showing analysis of intelligence reports she'd submitted through channels that were supposed to remain invisible to base personnel. The security breach suggested that her handlers' compartmentalization had been compromised at levels that threatened operations extending far beyond Naval Station Norfolk. "Your intelligence gathering has been thorough and professionally executed," Barrett acknowledged, displaying files that detailed 18 months of observations about equipment discrepancies, personnel qualifications, and activities that existed outside official documentation. "However, the information you've collected raises questions about oversight mechanisms that may require direct operational intervention." The statement was diplomatically constructed threat, suggesting that her intelligence reports had identified problems requiring correction through methods that normal oversight channels couldn't provide. Admiral Richardson's inspection was evolving from capability assessment into operational planning for missions that would use her demonstrated skills to address irregularities she'd been documenting. Admiral Richardson studied her personnel file with attention that suggested evaluation for assignments that would test capabilities she'd never fully revealed. Even during today's demonstration, "Your maritime security response team background includes specialized training that typically leads to positions requiring security clearances above your current level. The disconnect between your qualifications and assignment suggests strategic placement for purposes that extend beyond routine weapon maintenance." Vanessa realized that Admiral Richardson understood her intelligence mission while simultaneously recruiting her for operations that would serve different agendas. Her handlers had positioned her to monitor activities at Naval Station Norfolk, but those activities had apparently attracted attention from authorities who possessed resources for direct intervention rather than continued observation. "The operations you've been monitoring," Barnes added, consulting her tablet with familiarity that suggested extensive involvement in activities that had required her intelligence gathering, "serve counter-terrorism objectives that require capabilities not available through normal military channels. Personnel assignments that appear irregular actually provide cover for qualifications that official rosters can't acknowledge." The explanation reframed everything Vanessa had observed over 18 months, revealing that activities she'd been investigating were authorized operations that required unofficial implementation to maintain operational security. Her intelligence gathering had been monitoring friendly activities rather than investigating potential security breaches. But the revelation raised new questions about her handlers, objectives, and the scope of oversight that her mission was supposed to provide. If Naval Station Norfolk's hidden operations were authorized, why did they require monitoring by intelligence assets whose existence couldn't be officially acknowledged? Barrett's secure terminal chimed with incoming communication that required immediate attention, his expression shifting as he reviewed information that obviously affected the conference's direction. Priority message from Naval Intelligence Command. "Your handlers have requested immediate extraction based on compromise assessment that indicates terminal exposure risk." The announcement confirmed what Vanessa had suspected. Her intelligence mission was ending, but the circumstances of that termination would determine whether she retained operational usefulness or became a security liability requiring permanent resolution. Her handler's extraction order was competing with Admiral Richardson's recruitment for missions that would serve different objectives. "Extraction may not be the optimal solution," Admiral Richardson observed, his tone suggesting that flag officer authority superseded whatever arrangements her handlers believed they'd established. "Petty Officer Livingston's demonstrated capabilities make her valuable for operations that require precision engagement skills combined with technical expertise that few personnel possess." Vanessa understood that she was becoming the focus of bureaucratic competition between organizations that operated at classification levels where normal military hierarchy didn't apply. Her handlers wanted extraction to preserve intelligence assets for missions she couldn't understand. while Admiral Richardson saw operational opportunities that would serve objectives extending beyond her original assignment. "Sir, my current mission parameters include considerations that might affect operational deployment," she said, attempting to signal loyalty to handlers who'd assigned her original mission while avoiding direct refusal of Admiral Richardson's implied recruitment. Barnes consulted her tablet again, accessing information that obviously detailed options for resolving competing claims on Vanessa's services. "There's precedent for transferring personnel between organizations when operational requirements justify reassignment. Your demonstrated capabilities support missions that require qualifications not readily available through normal recruitment channels." The discussion was moving toward resolution that would serve Admiral Richardson's agenda while potentially eliminating her handlers' ability to monitor operations at Naval Station Norfolk. Transferred to missions requiring precision engagement would end her intelligence-gathering role but might provide access to information that served broader oversight objectives. Garrett's secure terminal displayed new information that changed his expression from concern to satisfaction, suggesting that communication with higher authorities had provided guidance that resolved competing claims on her assignment. "Naval Intelligence Command has authorized operational transfer contingent on mission parameters that preserve existing intelligence-gathering capabilities." Vanessa realized that compromise was being reached at levels above her clearance, with organizations that officially didn't coordinate finding ways to serve their respective agendas through arrangements that maintained plausible deniability for all participants. Her demonstrated capabilities were being allocated to serve multiple objectives simultaneously. "Your new assignment," Admiral Richardson announced, consulting orders that had apparently been transmitted during the conference, "involves precision engagement support for operations requiring maritime interdiction capabilities. You'll maintain technical responsibilities for specialized weapons while providing operational expertise for missions that benefit from advanced marksmanship skills." The assignment was elegant in its complexity, allowing her to serve operational requirements while maintaining position that enabled continued intelligence gathering about activities that required oversight from authorities who couldn't officially acknowledge their involvement. Her handlers would retain access to information while Admiral Richardson gained capabilities for missions requiring precision engagement. But the arrangement also meant that Vanessa would be participating in operations she'd been monitoring, potentially compromising her ability to maintain objective assessment of activities that might require intervention rather than support. The transition from observer to participant carried risks that none of the organizations competing for her services had fully considered. "When do I begin?" she asked, understanding that acceptance was inevitable while gathering information that might help her navigate challenges that her new assignment would create. "Immediately," Admiral Richardson replied, his satisfaction suggesting that today's conference had achieved objectives that extended far beyond capability assessment. "Your first mission briefing is scheduled for 1,400 hours. Packlight, operational deployments don't typically return to home base according to predictable schedules." Vanessa understood that her 18 months as gun girl had ended, replaced by assignments that would test capabilities she'd never fully revealed while serving objectives that remained classified beyond her current clearance level. Tomorrow would bring challenges that would make hiding her skills seem simple, compared to the complexities of using them in service of missions that existed in shadows deeper than any she'd previously navigated. The secure conference room fell silent as each participant contemplated implications of decisions that had reshaped Vanessa's assignment while potentially affecting operations spanning continents and involving personnel whose existence couldn't be officially acknowledged. She was no longer Petty Officer Livingston who cleaned guns at Naval Station Norfolk. She was becoming something else entirely. A precision marksman whose capabilities would serve missions that required skills few military personnel possessed, operating in environments where failure carried consequences that extended far beyond personal career considerations. 6 months after Admiral Richardson's inspection transformed her from gun girl into operational asset, Vanessa stood on the deck of the USS Blackwater, a vessel that didn't appear in any public Navy registry but served missions that required capabilities no official warship could provide. The South China Sea stretched endlessly around them, its waters concealing activities that 3 governments wanted to monitor, and none of them wanted to acknowledge publicly. Well, her quarters aboard the Blackwater were Spartan but functional, equipped with secure communications that linked her to handlers she'd never met and mission coordinators whose existence remained classified beyond congressional oversight. The Barrett M82 that had revealed her capabilities now rested in a custom case designed for maritime operations, its components protected against salt air and sudden weather changes that could compromise precision engagement capabilities. The transition from Naval Station Norfolk had been seamless in its execution and traumatic in its implications. Everything she'd thought she understood about her intelligence mission had been reframed by revelations that friendly operations required monitoring, not because they were unauthorized, but because they operated in legal gray areas where oversight from normal channels could compromise operational security. Captain Maria Santos approached with the confident stride of someone who'd commanded vessels in waters where diplomatic immunity didn't exist, and mission failure could trigger international incidents. Her background remained classified, but her command of the Blackwater suggested experience with operations that required capabilities no standard Navy training provided. Target vessel identified at bearing 270, range 4,000 meters. Santos announced, handing Vanessa intelligence briefings that detailed the morning's mission parameters. Cargo ship registered in Panama, operated by Shell Corporation with ties to organizations that fund activities we're tasked to prevent. Vanessa studied the briefing materials with attention that went beyond routine mission preparation. 6 months of operational deployment had taught her to read between lines of intelligence reports, identifying information that revealed more about the people requesting missions than the targets they wanted neutralized. Today's assignment carried political implications that extended far beyond maritime interdiction. The target vessel was the MV Esperanza, a converted freighter that appeared to be conducting routine cargo operations while actually transporting materials that 3 governments wanted intercepted without official acknowledgement of the operation. Its crew included personnel whose backgrounds suggested training that went beyond merchant marine qualifications, meaning that interdiction would likely involve armed resistance. Rules of engagement remained consistent with previous operations. Santos continued, consulting orders that had been transmitted through channels so secure that even their existence was classified. Disable propulsion systems, prevent cargo transfer, minimize casualties among crew members whose involvement may be involuntary. The mission parameters were carefully constructed to achieve strategic objectives while maintaining plausible deniability for all participants. If questioned by international authorities, the operation would be characterized as routine interdiction of suspected smuggling activity rather than precision strikes against assets supporting organizations that couldn't be officially confronted through diplomatic channels. Vanessa assembled the Barrett with movements that had become automatic through months of operational deployment, each component fitting perfectly despite conditions that challenged even military-grade equipment. The weapon had been modified for maritime operations, enhanced corrosion resistance, stabilized optics that compensated for vessel movement, and ammunition designed to maintain ballistic performance despite salt air and changing atmospheric conditions. Her target was the Esperanza's engine room, specifically the main propulsion diesel that powered systems allowing the vessel to maneuver while conducting cargo transfer operations. Disabling the engine would strand the ship while allowing crew evacuation and evidence collection by boarding teams that would arrive shortly after her precision engagement neutralized the vessel's mobility. Range 4,000 meters, target moving at 12 knots on heading 095, reported the fire control technician whose equipment provided targeting data that eliminated guesswork from long-range maritime engagement. Wind speed variable from southeast, wave action creating vertical displacement averaging 2 meters. The shooting conditions challenged everything Vanessa had learned about precision engagement, requiring calculations that incorporated variables most marksmen would never encounter. Maritime sniping demanded compensation for multiple vessels moving independently, atmospheric conditions that changed constantly, and target areas that remained concealed until brief windows when ship movement created engagement opportunities. She controlled her breathing while calculating ballistic trajectory that accounted for the Blackwater's movement, the Esperanza's course changes, and environmental factors that affected bullet flight over distances that pushed the Barrett's capabilities toward maximum effective range. The shot would require precision that few marksmen could achieve under ideal conditions, attempted from a moving platform against a moving target in conditions that eliminated margin for error. The first round struck the Esperanza's engine compartment with accuracy that confirmed months of training had prepared her for operational requirements that textbook instruction couldn't address. Impact occurred exactly where her calculations predicted, penetrating hull plating and destroying machinery that immediately began venting steam and smoke that signaled successful mission completion. "Target disabled," she reported, already preparing for follow-up shots that might be required if the Esperanza's crew attempted to restore propulsion or transfer cargo to smaller vessels that could escape interdiction. Propulsion systems compromised, vessel losing way. Captain Santos observed through military-grade optics that revealed details about the target vessel's response to sudden loss of mobility. Boarding teams launch in 3 minutes. Maintain overwatch position in case crew resistance requires additional precision engagement. Vanessa tracked the Esperanza through her scope, while boarding teams approached in rigid-hull inflatable boats that moved with speed and coordination that suggested extensive experience with maritime interdiction operations. The target vessel's crew was already abandoning ship, their rapid evacuation confirming that they understood the nature of forces conducting the operation. But her attention was drawn to movement aboard the Esperanza that suggested not all personnel were evacuating as expected. Through the Barrett scope, she observed figures moving toward what appeared to be a secondary cargo hold, their body language indicating urgency that went beyond normal emergency procedures. "Captain, I have personnel on the target vessel attempting to access cargo areas that weren't identified in pre-mission intelligence," she reported, maintaining scope focus while requesting guidance for engagement of threats that might compromise mission objectives. Santos consulted her communications equipment, accessing real-time intelligence that provided updated assessment of the situation developing aboard the Esperanza. Priority cargo includes materials that cannot be allowed to reach destination under any circumstances. Prevent access to secondary holds using minimum force necessary. The new orders authorized engagement of personnel, who posed threat to mission success, but they also required precision that would neutralize threats without destroying cargo that boarding teams needed to secure for analysis. Vanessa adjusted her aim toward figures approaching the secondary hold, calculating shots that would disable rather than kill targets whose intelligence value might exceed their threat potential. Her second shot struck the deck plating near personnel attempting to access restricted cargo areas, the impact close enough to demonstrate serious intent, while avoiding casualties that might complicate diplomatic explanations for the operation. The warning shot achieved its intended effect, immediate withdrawal from cargo areas and acceleration of evacuation procedures. "Boarding teams have secured the vessel," Santos announced as inflatable boats reached the Esperanza's hull and personnel began fast rope deployment that would establish control over all critical areas within minutes. "Outstanding shooting, Livingston. Mission success achieved with 0 casualties and complete cargo recovery." Vanessa secured the Barrett while processing the satisfaction that came from successful completion of missions that served objectives she couldn't fully understand, but trusted, were aligned with national security interests. 6 months of operational deployment had taught her that some questions were better left unasked, that effectiveness mattered more than complete understanding of strategic context. But she also understood that her transformation from gun girl to precision marksman had positioned her at the center of operations that existed in shadows deeper than her original intelligence mission had ever penetrated. The activities she'd monitored at Naval Station Norfolk were training and preparation for missions like today's interdiction, operations that required capabilities few military personnel possessed. Her secure communication device buzzed with encrypted message that appeared routine but contained acknowledgement from handlers she'd never met. Exceptional performance. Objectives achieved within acceptable parameters. Continue current assignment pending further operational requirements. The message confirmed that her intelligence-gathering mission had evolved into active participation in operations that her original handlers needed to monitor through methods that maintained her usefulness while serving broader oversight objectives. She was simultaneously serving operational requirements and intelligence-gathering functions that officially didn't coordinate but actually supported common strategic goals. Later that evening, as the Blackwater returned to international waters and the Esperanza was taken under tow for evidence analysis that would occur at facilities that didn't officially exist, Vanessa stood at the rail, watching sunset paint the South China Sea in colors that reminded her of morning mist over Chesapeake Bay. 18 months earlier, she'd been cleaning weapons while enduring casual dismissal from personnel who assumed that Gun Girl was exactly what she appeared to be. Tonight, she was operational asset whose precision engagement capabilities supported missions that protected national security interests through methods that couldn't be officially acknowledged. The transformation had been complete, But it had also revealed that some battles were fought not with dramatic confrontations but through careful positioning of right people in right places, where their capabilities could serve purposes that required both exceptional skill and absolute discretion. Tomorrow would bring new missions, fresh challenges, different opportunities to serve objectives that remained classified beyond her clearance level. But tonight, surrounded by ocean that concealed activities serving interests spanning continents, Vanessa Livingston understood that her journey from dismissed sailor to precision marksman had positioned her exactly where she belonged. In the shadows where heroes did their finest work, armed with capabilities that few possessed and trusted with missions that required both exceptional skill and unwavering dedication to serving something larger than personal recognition or career advancement. She was no longer gun girl. She was exactly what she'd always been beneath carefully maintained cover. A precision marksman whose capabilities served national security through methods that existed in spaces between official acknowledgement and operational necessity. The Barrett M82 rested secure in its case, ready for tomorrow's challenges that would test skills she'd finally been allowed to demonstrate after 18 months of hiding behind the fiction that she was nothing more than competent but unremarkable sailor who cleaned guns. But some victories were measured not in public recognition but in missions successfully completed by people whose capabilities remained hidden until circumstances demanded their revelation. New. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.